most fortunate to have Bri, the International Manager of Deakin University, visiting the 3WG office today. Thank you, Bri. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here in person. So we thought we'll take this opportunity and pose a few questions for our students who visit us. Getting it from the horse's mouth, I would say. Because they have kind of questions that they do come to us with and we need answers. I think our counselors do a fantastic job in that, but I'm sure you would have something that you can add on to the Deakin story. So I'd like to start the first question. In advent of all these country challenges, as you know, we have gone through these challenges in the last index. Challenges in Australia, in Canada. As you see, housing has become a problem, so visas got a bit delayed. So there's a little question mark of whether Australia is the market to be in. So how would you positively reinforce a student that Australia is yet a hot market for Sri Lankans? Yeah. Over to you on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it has been a difficult industry, and it's had a lot of troubles in the recent years, but I would definitely say Australia is still one of the top destinations, if not, I'd say a bit biased, but the top destinations for international students to consider. There's been a lot of misinformation in the media, and I think that that's something that we all need to remember, that until there's actually facts, we shouldn't get too concerned. So Australia is still very much open and welcoming to genuine international students, as is Deakin University. And I think that the Australian culture for Sri Lankan students in particular is something that's so welcoming because we've got so many similarities. Very calm, very respectful, but also fun. Our sense of humour is really similar. We have a great Sri Lankan diaspora in Australia. And we know that there's been a lot of talk about caps, but there's lots of universities where that won't really change too much, including Deakin. We don't anticipate any changes really to our recruitment, and the same number of students from Sri Lanka are going to be absolutely welcome. Australia's still got incredible post-study work rights, and I think we all need to be honest that return on investment in this is really important. Committing to international study is very expensive for students, and it's a big investment, and they want to make sure that they've got something afterwards that's going to guarantee them some of that return and also some work experience, and I think Australia does that really well. In addition to that, I guess being able to work while they're studying. It's very normal for Australians. I myself started to work when I was 14 years of age, part-time while I was studying, very, very common. So they can work for 48 hours per fortnight whilst they're studying. Gives them a really good opportunity to make some money, to support themselves with some of their living expenses, but also have a little bit of fun in Australia. It's, as I'm sure you would agree, a wonderful country to be in. Very friendly, extremely multicultural, and I just think Australia still is an incredible destination that Sri Lanka should still think of as the #1 study choice.
Extending that question, how do Sri Lankans fit into Australia? Do you see Sri Lankan students doing well in Australia, or they challenged? How would you respond to a future student who wants to commit his career in Australia in terms of a study program?
They do incredibly well. I think that I'm from Melbourne, so that has one of the largest diasporas of Sri Lankans outside of the country. I think there's over 85,000 Sri Lankans in Victoria, which is the state that we're in at the moment. So why that's a benefit is because there's so much support and there's so much community, and most Sri Lankans have a friend, cousin, auntie, uncle, mum, dad, brother, sister who are also in Melbourne. So having that support, having access to home cooked food or restaurants where it reminds you of home really helps. But I think that the other thing is that universities in Australia all around are incredibly supportive of students, and they have great support networks. So Sri Lankans might find the style of education in Australia a little bit different. We don't do that rote learning. We're very much interested in practical learning experience. So in order to adapt, it can be a little bit challenging to start off with, but what we've seen in particular now Sri Lankan students is how much they grow. So when they come to us, a lot of them are quite shy and not willing to put themselves out there so much, but after a couple of years in Australia, they're up in front of the panels speaking very confidently, and just really you'd think that they were Australian all along because they've just integrated so well into the culture. and they love being there and really want to continue their time. Some want to come back and give to Sri Lanka as well, which is great, and some decide to continue their lives in Australia. So it adds a really great vibrancy into our city.
Usually there is this kind of a discontention from the corporate world that students graduate and they come out with a degree, or I would say more from the people who just graduate, that they are not ready for the corporates. They are not workplace ready. How does Deakin address this, and what does Deakin do different to the rest of the universities?
Yeah, so very practical. So one thing that might scare some of the parents out there is our undergraduate engineering degree no longer has exams. And whilst that can sound a bit weird, what it actually does is we replace that with practical learning. So they do project-based learning design, and with that they're getting experience working on real projects. Instead of just sitting in the classroom reading textbooks and knowing things in their head, they're actually producing outcomes that they can show employers. So when they're asking for experience, they've actually got that. In addition, there's work integrated learning, which is what we call, it's an umbrella term for things such as internships or business consulting projects, all different types of experiential learning in that work industry.
So how is your network when it comes to organizations that are taking Deakin students into internship? I'm sure you have a good network. You
Very incredible network. So we have one of the best graduate employment divisions in Australia. So that's Deakin Talent, who work with our international students from day one, and that service is a lifelong service. So even when they become alumni, they can use that. They bring in industry from all over to come onto campus to meet with students, and also host different freelancing hubs and internship opportunities for students to go out to. So it can be global. We've got students who have gone to work for things such as the Olympics, cricketing boards, just thinking of some of the common sporting ones. Then of course the Big Four, students in KPMG. We had one of the heads of Twitter at one point, so lots of different big companies that...
So your alumni is doing very well out there. So
doing
which is
incredibly well. We're very proud of them, and lots are back here in Sri Lanka as well, which is great. They're able to bring that knowledge and that experience back into the country.
That's something positive. I'm sure all our students will look forward to hear from those case studies, and believe maybe those things can be shared going forward.